Hi, my name is Nick, and this tooltip is on adding in gutters and downspouts. Creating a truly accurate design is all about the details. Adding in your gutters and downspouts will give you the final detail in both your elevations and your renderings. We're going to go into a 2D view and we're going to add in some gutters and downspouts. So I'm just going to go in the 2D, and the first thing I always do is I select my roof. And by selecting the roof, this is going to allow me to see some of the variables that are going to help me in placing my downspouts and gutters. So I'm going to go into the right click menu and I'm going to select properties. In here I need to take notice of the actual fascia distance, because that's going to be how high I need to elevate my gutters, and I need to take notice of the overhang, and that's going to help me control how far back my downspouts need to extend. So those two variables will help me in determining how these gutters and downspouts are going to be placed in. I'm going to say OK, and I'm now just going to add in some gutters. So I'm going to go under my Interiors tab, and then under Interiors I'm going to select the plumbing fixtures, and then under the plumbing fixtures at the very bottom is Exterior Plumbing Fixtures. And in here are a bunch of different options that you can use to add in for your gutters. So we have just a straight section eaves trough gutter, we have gutters with actual corners on the outsides, and we have actual just inside and outside corner pieces as well. I'm just going to select the straight section. I'm going to zoom in on this front part of our design here, and before I add this in, I'm going to specify the base height. And the base height is going to be determined based on that fascia distance that we found earlier. Now that was 7'9" and 9/16. I want this to be set so that it sits just a little bit below the edge of the roof, and this gutter is actually also going to be inserted based off of the top of the gutter, so I need to offset it about the thickness of this gutter as well. So I'm going to make this 7 foot, and I'm going to say 4.5 inches. So I want to make sure that I have all of that information typed in, and then I simply press tab on my keyboard, and that will lock that gutter in at that height. And I can just left click to place it. Once it's added in, I can further move this around to snap this exactly where I want. So I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard to nudge it. I can actually right click and move to move it into place so that it sits close to the face of that fascia board. Once it's in place, we can further refine this gutter. So I can go into its actual properties, and I want to go into the display option. So this will allow me to control what is actually going to be displayed in 3D. So this particular section of gutter actually has a left and right end cap. Since this is going to be a middle section of a gutter, I don't need those end caps on there. So I can simply just turn them off, and that will remove the end caps to allow my water to flow through. I can say OK and OK. I'm now going to add in an outside corner, and I'm going to make sure that again this is set to 7 foot 4.5 inches, and I'm going to press tab to lock that in. I'm going to move this into place, and I'm going to get as close as I can to the actual corners here, and I'm just going to move it in using my arrow keys, and again I can further refine that by just moving it in to it so that it snaps to that edge. This time I'm going to select, with that gutter selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say mirror, and I can now mirror that around a known point. So since this is the center of that beam, I know that this is going to allow me to mirror along that point, and I can place it in. I don't want to delete the original out, so I'm going to say no. I can now measure between these two gutters and say, well, I know that this needs to be about 14 foot 2 inches. So I'm going to select the gutter, right click, properties, and I'm going to change the width to be 14 foot 2 inches. And I can then say OK. And that will now add that gutter in to fill in that void. If I look at that in our 3D view, we can see how that gutter is now sitting along our fascia board. Another way to add in gutters is to use the member tool. So we're going to go to the building tab and we're going to select members. And under members, towards the bottom, you're going to see a folder called gutters. And in here we have 4 different types of gutters that are created, and these are actually created using a profile. I'm going to double click on the triple cove gutter. I'm going to bring up its properties. There's some variables in here that I want to take advantage of, so I'm going to go to the Details tab, and I want to make sure that the end condition is set to miter. This way, whenever I come to a corner, it will automatically miter those edges for me. The other value that I want to look at is this reference point, and this is saying it's going to the actual top of that member. So when I go to add this in, I know that I need to make sure that that dimension is going to the top of the member itself. So I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to start to add in this triple cove gutter. But again, I'm going to take advantage of my base height, and I'm going to type in the value that I need. So if remember, our main dimension was 7'9", so I'm going to make this 7 foot 8.5 inches. I'm just going to press tab, and now I'm going to start to draw in that gutter. Now I'm going to get close to the roof, but not right up to the edge of it, because I don't want to snap to that, because it will snap to the center of the member. So I'm going to draw this in, and I'm going to get close to the edges here as I can, and I'm just going to place them in. And then I'm going to say finish. I can then select the edges of the gutter, and I can now move it in so that it sits up close to the fascia itself. And I'm just going to move all of these gutters in so they sit close to the edge of the fascia board. And as you can see, as I added them in, it automatically mitered those corners for me, so I can see how that corner is going to be created just by using that miter tool. We can now take a look at this in our 3D view, and we can see how this is going to look in regards to the rest of our design. So now we can see our gutters along the edge of the roof using the member tool. Next, we're going to look at adding in a downspout. So I'm going to go back to Interiors, and I'm going to select Plumbing Fixtures, and under that exterior plumbing option is a rain spout with tail, and you can see how that looks in the preview. There is just a rain downspout with no tail, and then just a direct tail option. We're going to use the downspout with tail, and I'm going to bring this into my drawing area, and I'm going to place this where I want it to go. Now what we're looking at right now is the 2D plan view of that, and this is going to be the top portion of that downspout. So I'm placing this right up against the edge here like so, and then I left click once to add it in. I'm going to go into a 3D view so we can see what we're working with, and you can see here that we need to not only elevate this, but we need to rotate it. So I'm going to go back into 2D. I'm going to select Edit, select Previous, and I'm just going to rotate this around, and now I'm going to move it into place by just using my arrow keys to get that close. I go into a 3D view, and again, now I can start to adjust the actual properties. So if I go right click Properties, I can now control how far back I want this to go, and we determine that that should be 1 foot 4 inches, and I can still leave that at 8 feet high, and I'm just going to say OK. I'm going to go back into 2D, and again I'm going to just move this into place because I want this to sit flush up against that fascia board. And I'm going to go back into 3D, and now I can elevate this into place. So I want this to be -4 inches. We can say apply and OK, and we can now see how that gutter is going to sit up against our post on our front porch. We hope this tooltip helps you moving forward. If you like what we're creating, be sure to subscribe for future videos. If you have comments, please let us know below. Thank you.